Hello and welcome back to Scriptcase by Jamie. And yes, once again, we have the Let's Build wallpaper up on the desktop. That meaning we are, of course, building once again. And yes, you may have guessed it, we are going to continue with the project that we had started previously, because as you can see, if you had watched it or completed it, let's say you had not completed it because it wasn't complete, we still had so much to do really. And well, we want to have a look at that today and start going through some further options and content that we want to start adding to this project so that it actually becomes a project. Because right now, yeah, we still have a lot to do. Okay, so let's have a look at where we were, and we have then our pages. We had added a header with our logo and some information. We have here our first grid application for our clients, and here we're able to add new clients, choose a company or associate them with a company, so we can add then the client information, or of course we could go ahead and edit the client and send them also an email. So we can send our clients emails directly from the platform, and we have here the client information all added. So this is already the start of our client/company management platform. And of course, there are a few things that we wanted to add here, and one of them was the option to possibly import a template into this, which is something we're going to look at, as well as a few other possibilities of adding, or functionalities should I say, that we can add to this mini little project. Now we had then also our company list, and here we just had the logos and basic company information so that we could basically store that. And again, of course, we're able to add new companies, add the logo and so on. And here, well, we're going to have to look at what this is. And then, of course, we have then also the possibility to edit them. And there we have the email addresses. So we are going to want to adjust that because they are in the wrong position. So that's one of the things that we had not finished in the previous part. And of course, we are going to want to clean that up today, as well as make a few other adjustments to this, such as organizing our applications here, because yes, we hadn't even organized our applications yet in the previous videos. We had just created these few applications, created our database, put together a little idea of what it is that we want to achieve within this project. So, okay, let's continue. And I'm going to start by, first of all, organizing the applications that we have here. So let me choose, first of all, the client. So I have the client form and the client grid. And I will basically choose down here the move option and then move them into the clients folder. Okay, so just like that, I have then placed them here into my folder structure, and we want to then do the same also with our companies. So let's move those over into our companies folder. Okay, and now we have our menu as well as the email form that we had created. So let's have a quick look at that, because that's still outdated here, and there are still quite a few things that we need to do. So we can skip the email for now, and then we are missing the to email, and the from is then automatically taken from our settings table, if you remember that. Okay, so we have then our subject and everything here, which is quite nice, and we will want to make some changes to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by adding another folder first of all, and I'll call it just email. In fact, let me capitalize this also so it matches then also the rest of our folder structure that we have going here. And I'll come back to root, and it's actually an admin where we are. So let me grab here the control client email and move that then also into the email folder. And then here the menu, we can actually move that into root, because really that's where that should be for now. We don't want that as part of our administration structure here. Okay, so let's have a quick look. We had then also one issue here with the company's form. So let's jump into that one straight away and resolve that. So at least that is corrected. And we can then do that quickly here in the edit fields option. And there we have the company email and support placed at the top here. And let's place then first of all the company email below the name, and the company support email we can place at the bottom here under the VAT number. Now, if we go ahead and run that, we can see what that looks like. Now, we may want to hide the support during initial entry. So let's go ahead and just check that box quickly, save that. And then next time we run this application, this support box will not be displayed on new entry, only on edit like it is now. Here, right now we are viewing an edit, okay, because we have here company information already, as well as the logo and so forth. Okay, so now that is done, we can then come back to our Scriptcase applications. And what I'm going to do is then just go ahead and generate all of the source code, just in case there's anything we didn't, we've missed out in between. And we want to make sure everything's updated so that when we come now to look at our applications, and we can then see if there's anything else that we really want to add to this, or maybe remove from it or adjust before we continue on to the next stage. Okay, so now that we have pretty much everything in order, which really, of course, I should have finished in the previous video, but yes, it was getting on a little bit, and I didn't think you would mind really waiting a little while there until we actually come back to this and continue with this client and company management platform. Let's call it a very basic client and company management platform right now. And of course, now we want to look at sprucing that up. So of course, what are we going to do? Well, we are going to continue planning our project, creating our definitions or requirements, let's say, as well as organizing our storage, our sitemap a little, as of course, creating some new processes, because we want to do more with this platform than just send an email to clients. We want to add these templates, right? So let's first of all look here at our storage, and we had added here already the email log as well as the email templates. So maybe I shouldn't have added those previously, because of course I gave away what was going to be within this, or these parts, should I say, because yes, again, we will be looking at multiple parts and implementing these features into this client and company project. And with that, well, maybe we will add one more functionality before we finish up. We'll see. And regardless of what happens then at the end of this series of videos, so once we have completed this part of the project, whether that be the email templates and email log, as well as maybe an additional feature there, this project will be available for Scriptcase by Jamie members. And only members. I'm afraid it will not be available here on the channel. You will have to pop over to ScriptcaseByJamie.com, and from there you will of course be able to become a member if it's still available, because I think when this video goes live, the membership may be no more. Yes, I'm afraid so. After the sale has finished, the membership will stop. It will come back in a different shape and form. Everything has to evolve. And as it is right now, the initial members that have joined Scriptcase by Jamie, thank you very much. And of course, you will be, well, I think you'll be laughing later that you got in so early. Congratulations once again. I've said it before. Now I think by this point, hopefully you are feeling a bit better about that. And if not, well, you will when the membership returns. And if it's not gone yet, well, lucky you. Maybe I'm just giving you a little bit of a pre-warning what is going to happen next. Because yes, once the membership has gone, it will be gone for a few months. A few, I say. Who knows whether it's going to be 1 or 3. But yes, scarcity is really alive these days, let's say. Okay, so let's dive into this project. We really want to continue with this and actually start adding some of these features. So we have, first of all, our database. So let me come back into our database. And of course, for that, we need our PHPMyAdmin, and I can just log in with root because of course I'm using my local WAMP server for this, and I will be creating some trainings on how to set that up later on. So of course, keep your ears out and you will be able to learn how you can actually set up various types of environments with Scriptcase by Jamie, of course. Okay, so we have here our project 1 database. This is at the database that we are working with, and we have our tables here, clients, companies, our companies underscore clients table, so our reference table. We have our email log already, and we have our email settings. So we had added the email settings. Let's quickly check the email log. And these are the fields that we had added there. So we have the ID for this email log. We have a create date, a send date, as well as a user login. So who created this email, basically. The email to, email from, email subject, as well as the email message. Now we could, of course, add some further fields here, giving more possibilities or options, such as maybe the sender email, or sender user login, should I say, so that we know who the actual sender is, because here the user login could just be the creator, and then of course we could add further date options and so forth, and of course the list goes on. So having all of those definitions defined previously will of course help you a great deal, and knowing what you are going to be doing with that specific data. But for now, this is of course just a starting point, and you can of course make your own adjustments to the database tables, to the applications, and everything else that is involved within this project. Okay, so we need to add one extra table here. So I'm going to do that here within PHPMyAdmin. Ideally, I would go and actually create that elsewhere within my MySQL workshop, for instance, and create it there and have this all defined already. Well, for once, let's just edit it like this, and then it's one of the easier ways, let's say, and at the same time can also be one of the most difficult ways. Okay, so I say it's easy now in this situation, so that is very important to note. So let's create then this table, and I'll call it email underscore, and I'll call it TPL for templates. Now ideally I want to add also a template type. So let me add here first of all our 4 columns, or 5 columns even. Let's create 5 columns. I have no idea what they're going to be yet. I have an idea. So let's go email TPL like so, and then we have then email, let's go type ID, because I want to be creating that in a minute, a type for this, so that we can choose the type of email, and then we have then the list of subjects, let's say. Okay, so then we have then email, or let's actually keep it as TPL. Let's go then last update, actually. So we can actually have that then as our insert, as well as the last update date. So then we also always can see when this template was last adjusted. We could even add an active status. So maybe let's actually remove that, and let's add a TPL active. I think that would actually make much more sense in this scenario. And here I'll go TPL subject, and here TPL message. Okay, so there we have then our initial fields, and of course we need to add our lengths or values in here now. So what are we going to be storing, and selecting the correct type according to the data that we want to store within our database tables. So because this is going to be now an auto increasing field, we want to ideally have a long length here. And 11 integers, well, that is super long, okay? You don't have to really worry too much about hitting that limit anytime in the future. Okay, so then we also have our email type ID. Now, I don't know how many we are going to have, but I will add 11 here also, just in case. Now, for our subject, we want this to be a varchar. Our TPL message, we can set this as a long text, and our active, where we can leave that also as an integer. So for the active would be 1. Our long text, we don't need to add a value in here. And our varchar, we can specify 250. And that will give us then a 250 character limit for the subject field, just like we have for our email sending field, and which is typically the limit anyway. Okay, so we have no defaults, so we don't really have to worry about defaults other than here maybe the active. So the active I will set as active straight away, so that is 1. And these other options here, the message, subject, as well as the type, I will set these as null so that they are basically not enforced, and we can just add null values in there, or just the null value is actually entered, let's say. So once I've done that, I can go ahead and click down here the save button. And just like that, my new table is then created for us. Now, again, if I wanted to go ahead and add a new field to this, such as the created date, as we had mentioned a few moments ago, I could then choose here the location where I want to create this here. I would say after the ID email TPL, for instance. That's a good position for the create date maybe. So I could go and then create that, create date. Set that then also as a date field. In these situations, a date time sometimes is just too much information, so having just a date is good. I'll set that as null as well, and then just like that, we have added then our create date in there. So we have now the option for a TPL. Now I still need to create one more table, so let me come back here to the database, and then here I want to use the email type, which I had then saved there. And this time I really only need 2 columns, and they will add then the email type ID, set the value as 11, and then here I will then say email type and then give it a varchar of 250. Okay, again, I'll set that as null and auto increasing, and then we can just go ahead and save that. And just like that, we have now some tables prepared for some templates that we can use with a type. Now, if we would have created this within the MySQL workshop, we could have created the linkage really nicely. And of course, we could still do that now. But for now, I think it's okay. We can just continue. And that's one of the beautiful things about Scriptcase. We can actually build these relationships up within our application. Okay, so we don't have to do that within our database. Our database can essentially be as basic as possible, which is not a good idea, okay? If you can build those connections and everything else and have your database perform some of those actions, okay? So it really depends on the platform you are developing, because with those relationships, you can set up your dependencies and much more. And in some cases, they will be very important to your project. In this case, it doesn't really matter. We're going to put it all together for you, and then really all you have to do is import it, and well, it's going to be working as it is, and then you can, of course, make any further adjustments if you want to. Now, you can, of course, take that database now that we've created and add that linkage there, and the tables and applications will continue working. If you synchronize the form, which would be important, then it would be even better. But you don't have to. Okay, so now that we have our email folder, we've added our TPL, and that is exactly why we had created here our email folder, so that we can start creating some of these new applications that we need for these templates. So let me come up here again to application and then batch applications, and we're just going to really quickly generate those new database applications or tables that we have just created. Now, by default, Scriptcase does not see that I have just updated the table. Because I've just updated it within PHPMyAdmin, I need to now choose here the synchronization button, and that should then synchronize Scriptcase with the latest changes or updates to the database. And now, as you see, I can view now the new tables that are available. So I can choose now the email type. I don't think we need a grid for that. A form should be sufficient. We will need a grid and a form for the TPL. We also have our email settings. So here I will just take a form again. We don't need a grid. It is just for settings. There is just one entry, so the form will essentially only update. We also have our email log, and we can actually create a grid for that. And then we can go next. Okay, so again, we can add here our description, and we had added here admin email sent log, let's say. Okay, just like that. And we have then our indication there. I'll just copy the admin here everywhere because essentially these will be admin applications. And then here, let's then add here email settings, email templates, and form. So template form. And here we then have email templates list. Okay, and this is then the admin email template types. Okay, and here for the email type, I actually want to change this for a multiple row or possibly an editable grid or editable grid view. We can pick any one of these really, depending on the type of view that we want. So I'll just go for multiple rows right now, and then we can have a look at that in a moment. The other two options here are great as single rows because we only have one entry for our email settings, and our email template form is here connected also to or linked to the email template or email TPL grid application. And again, we want the possibility to add multiple entries at a single level, let's say. So one at a time, okay? And that will then again make the user experience a little better. Okay, so let's go ahead and generate that source code and also bring it all to edit. Okay, and we see there straight away with our email form settings, we had an error message there during the generation, and that is because there has been no primary ID set for our email settings. That's something we probably missed previously within the video. That wasn't good, was it? But of course, we can make those adjustments here within the application. We don't have to worry about that. That's again one of the beauties of Scriptcase. So for that, we have here the SQL error. And we have here the select primary key fields. So we haven't set this within the database, but we can set this here within our form. So by selecting now the field as I've just done so, selecting on or off, depending what we want. So on is with the star and off is with no star. And then I can save that. And now if I go ahead and run this form application, I will have no more errors for this form. Okay, so there are quite a few adjustments we want to make to all of these. So very quickly, we are going to make the initial changes to each of our form applications. So we set each of those to top 100%, and then we'll come here to layout, header and footer, save it on the way, and then we want to remove here the header from these applications. So I'm going to do the same here again for our form email TPL, top 100%, layout, header and footer, save on the way, and of course disable the header. And then one more time, the email type into settings, set this to top, alignment top, and the layout, header and footer, save on the way, and of course remove the header. Now each of those will of course now have a much better view than this. The header will be gone, it will be perfectly aligned, and we can see that of course just by running each or all of these applications. But I don't think we need to. By now I think you should know what it looks like. We did this in the previous videos, so hopefully you do, and if not, you do now because now we have done it a few times, and of course you can always rewatch and catch up again or relearn something. Or okay, so now that we have our forms ready, we have now our email type, we have the email template form, as well as the email settings form. So let's go ahead and run each of them and see what changes we would want to make. So we have here, first of all, our email settings. And as I said before, this is only for updates and so forth. So we don't want an add new option here. We really just want the save, and we definitely do not want the delete option. And we can get rid of this bar and everything down here, the quick search and everything. So let's jump here into our toolbar, remove here the quick search and dynamic search, remove the insert and delete options. Okay, and if I save that, and I'm going to remove here all of our options down here. So I'll save that also. Now, if I go ahead and run the form, it will now say, hey, I want an ID, because now we're forcing it to open only one specific entry. So if I now go 1, it will only open this ID. We have the save and exit. So to make sure that we only open this form, we need to make a few adjustments. So back here within the SQL, I can add a where clause here. And here I can say then ID set, which is our ID reference code, our primary key that we have up here. And that, again, as we have previously, you may remember, we have that as 1, which is similar to what we set our active status to. So if I now go ahead and run this application, again, it will only give me this option, but it will only select ID 1. Okay, so with that then added, we can come back here to our form application. And of course, we can make some further adjustments here because ideally, we want to also set this as a unique key. We had set it as a primary, and there are no unique keys for this. And the ID setting is essentially a unique key. So we want to add that there and make sure it is unique. Now, if I come here to run application again, we can then run that, click on the form settings, and we have then our form settings there all nice and tidy. And really, we can actually get rid of the ID field. Let's hide that. So we drag that out of the way, run that again, and then we have now our email settings here all set up, ready to go. Of course, we'll make some further adjustments to that later on as we come through. But for now, let's jump into our form email template. So let's have a look here. We have then here our create date, email type, subject, message, active. So we need to adjust these. And for that, I want to then first of all come here actually to the email types. And if we come run here, we can then just run this and add some types here first of all. So we can say maybe a welcome email, and then maybe an invoice email, and then maybe a sales email. Well, actually sales would be an invoice in general, so let's remove that. And well, let's just put project here. And then we have already 3 types of email types that we can use. So I'll go add. We see that form already pretty much works and everything. We don't have to really make any changes there. That's pretty good already. And of course, if I run it now or even go cancel there, it will give me then here now the view for those. Now, personally, I do prefer some of the other views, such as the grid edit and so forth, but it really depends on the type of application you want to use. Okay, so in this case, it's good. Let's come back here to our form email template. And now we can check out here our fields. And we have here the create date, the email type. So this one, I want to associate this straight away with our email types that we have just created here. And of course, we need to add here also our language variables. So I'll come back down here, leave it in automatic, or we leave the value as automatic. We can create our select and then choose here the email type table, and then set then the type as the field to be shown. And then, of course, add our connection here. So you could leave it, but then when you come to deploy your project, well, maybe it will be requesting the connection to be chosen, which is generally a good idea to have that set. So I will choose to use a title here so that I can add email templates without any type. Okay, and if I go save and run again, we can then see our form with our types added in here. We want to add a subject and a message, so let's change those also. The subject's pretty much good. The message, we want to change this to multi-lines text. In fact, we had added a HTML editor into the other one, didn't we? So let's add here a HTML editor, and with that, we may want to adjust our database table. So let's choose HTML editor, and we have here the long type text, and it may be enough, it may be good enough, but it may not be. Okay, so we'll test that as we go along. So if I go ahead and save that now, that will then be added there for our template. And for the active, what I want to choose here, a checkbox, and come back down here, set that to manual, and set also a single value. And then here for the checkbox, we can say active And again, we have our language variables. We can't forget that we have language variables set for some of these options. So let's come here to our general, and here we have none yet, client email. We also have none here that are suitable. So ideally, well, actually client email, we have active and inactive here somewhere, don't we? Group by. There we go. So we can actually use these active, inactive, and use these here for our email TPL, which is good. Checkbox, active, and don't forget the curly brackets around that. Otherwise, it won't work. You'll actually add the text in there, and active as 1 and inactive as 0. So I'll save that. And of course, we can add that up here as well, or just actually add the status in there. But let's have a look if the synchronization will work for us in a moment. So let's save that. And of course, we can go ahead and run the application and see where we stand. So we now have here our HTML editor. We have a type that we can add. We have a create date. We want to adjust that still. We have here our active, and we want to change this here to a checkbox. So we can, well, a switch, sorry. So here for the active, let's change that to a switch. And then come here to edit fields and just drag here the ID out of the way. And the create date, well, that can come out of the way as well. And we can add that here as date of insertion, and then also add here date of update. And then it will be updated all the time with the initial date as well as then the update date. Okay, so if I go ahead and run that now, I have then this form near enough ready. Okay, we still have the languages here to apply to each of these applications, as well as, well, apply the template feature to our email. And of course, for that, we will need some templates to add. Okay, so that is it for this part. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you are learning something from this mini little series. And of course, yeah, we're trying to have some fun with it at the same time and seeing how you can create something really simple without really knowing anything, because, I've been doing this for a long time and you may have not been. So I'm hoping that you can see some of the difficulties you have working in some different ways, and also seeing some ways that you can work, as well as, of course, building your own application, your own platform, your own portal. That is the whole idea of this channel. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.